A single GPU card, smaller than your palm, silicon under a heatsink the size of a coin, sat inside a Chinese gaming PC in late 2024, running a first-person shooter at a playable frame rate. That much is unremarkable. The part nobody was writing about, the same die, same transistors, same power envelope, was simultaneously training a small language model in the rack beside it. Not two chips doing two jobs, one chip doing both. Nvidia has owned both flanks of the GPU market for 2 decades. Games on one side, artificial intelligence compute on the other. One architecture bridging them. More Threads, a Chinese chip company most Western analysts filed under, too small to matter, just showed up on the flank nobody was watching. By the end of this, you will understand why the gaming GPU, not the AI accelerator, was the move that actually mattered. The story of the chip race between China and the West has been told almost entirely through one lens. Who makes the fastest AI training chip? That framing is not wrong, but it is narrow in a way that hides the real contest. When the United States Commerce Department tightened export controls on advanced AI accelerators, the public narrative collapsed into a single question: which Chinese firm would build the best AI chip? Cambricon, Biren, Huawei's Ascend line. All AI first, all benchmarked against Nvidia's data center products. Watching only that race is like tracking a military conflict by counting only the artillery, while the opponent is quietly building the only road network in the theater. Nvidia's actual competitive position rests on something the AI chip framing consistently misses. It ships one architecture that runs games, runs inference, and runs training. One stack, universal market, the same developer relationships doing double duty. That road network is exactly what More Threads was laying while the cameras pointed elsewhere. More Threads ships what the company describes as a full-function graphics processing unit, a graphics rendering pipeline and AI compute on a single die. Every other major Chinese AI chip effort, Ascend included, is AI only. No rasterization, no graphics application programming interface, no game engine support. In 2024 and 2025, a gaming graphics card in China looked like a rounding error next to the headline AI Accelerator War. I think that framing was always a category error. Nvidia's moat is not the H100, it is that one die does both. China could not copy the moat by chasing only the AI half. Imagine two armies racing to build the best cannon. One side also quietly builds the only functional wagon wheel in the region. The cannon gets the headlines. The wagon wheel wins the campaign. The reason the wagon wheel matters is that it moves everything, and the full function die is exactly that kind of asset. A developer writing game graphics and a researcher running model training are both using the same silicon, the same drivers, the same interface surface. That is More Threads' architectural claim. China's graphics stack has, until recently, been entirely foreign. Nvidia, AMD, and Intel on the hardware side, with Microsoft's DirectX and the Vulkan Open Standard on the software side. Building a domestic graphics interface and driver ecosystem is the hidden hard part, the thing that takes a decade under normal conditions. More Threads reports it has done this. Independent developer adoption data is thin, so treat that claim with appropriate caution. But consider the transistor count on a modern graphics die. Roughly the population of a large country packed into a surface you could cover with your thumbnail. The engineering margin that separates a gaming graphics card from an AI accelerator at that scale is not a canyon. It is closer to a coat of paint, which is exactly why nobody expected China to close the gap from the graphics side rather than the AI side. Closing that gap from the gaming direction is what More Threads listing on China's Star Market in December 2025 confirmed was real enough to price. The company reported a first-quarter revenue jump of roughly 155% year over year. That figure comes from the company itself, and no independent audit had confirmed it at the time of writing, so hold it loosely. But here's my read on what the listing means. You do not list a chip company on a domestic exchange to raise money for a product that is still a prototype. A star listing requires auditable revenue, a scalable product, and investor confidence in the business model. That listing is a declaration that the revenue model works, or that the state wants the market to believe it does. That ambiguity is real. and it is where the skeptic's case lives. The strongest counterarguments deserve an honest hearing. First, More Threads describes a full-function die, but no independent benchmark has confirmed performance parity with Nvidia's current products at equivalent power draw. Full function may mean architecturally complete without being competitive on frames per second or raw compute throughput. Second, the ecosystem gap is the real moat, not the silicon. Nvidia's software library, its game engine integrations, its developer toolchain, these took 15 years to build. A chip without a deep software ecosystem is a beach without a port. Third, physical limits are real and documented. Heat density, manufacturing yield rates at smaller nodes, and memory bandwidth all constrain what a single full-function die can do. More Threads is not manufacturing at the leading process edge, and that gap between what it can produce and what Nvidia ships is measurable. The strongest version of the bear case is not that More Threads is fake. It is that a full-function architecture without a mature software stack and leading-edge fabrication is a necessary condition, not a sufficient one. The chip exists, the question is whether the ecosystem follows. A 155% revenue increase is extraordinary on its face, but the number that actually matters is whether developers are writing software against More Threads' graphics stack. Revenue without an ecosystem is a one-cycle anomaly. The export control logic assumed China would exhaust itself chasing AI accelerators and never have bandwidth to build a graphics stack. The control instead compressed China's options until the only uncrowded path was the full-function die. The architecture Nvidia had no reason to defend, because no one had ever contested it from that direction. Locked off the AI flank, China found the gaming flank undefended. That flank became the front. The wall did not stop the advance. It redirected it to the unguarded gate. I think the West mispriced this risk by fixating on the category it was already defending. AI accelerators got the sanctions, the headlines, the competitive energy. The gaming graphics card got none of that, and that is precisely why it was available. More Threads did not outrun Nvidia. It ran somewhere Nvidia had no reason to look. A restriction designed to contain China down one corridor instead revealed a door no one had locked. The constraint was the map. More Threads is not an Nvidia killer. It is something more interesting, proof that the full-function architecture is now a domestic asset. Graphics stack, AI stack, one die, no foreign dependency. Whether the ecosystem matures is the only question left. Nvidia spent 2 decades building 2 flanks into one business. China just proved it can contest the flank that nobody was watching. That is not a consolation prize. That is a position. The most dangerous move in any competition is the one your opponent had no budget left to notice. If More Threads builds the developer ecosystem to match the silicon, games, inference, training, all on one domestic stack, does that change your read on where the real graphics processing war is being fought? Tell me in the comments. And if you want analysis that runs one layer beneath the headline, subscribe. This channel exists for exactly that.